Going here from what I can see, but don't ask me. Someone else. Someone else. Eric, are we live? Somebody that's paying attention. Okay, good. Sorry, Denise was drinking during dinner. Um, Eric said yes. Perfect. Um, Welcome to Position of Neutrality. We start every session of Position of Neutrality with a prayer and a special treat for you tonight. For those of you over the years, I don't know how many years, but many, many years, and Emma, you in Chicago, and a whole bunch of you guys up in Edmonton, Canada, have been asking me to put Sean, the voice that you all know so well, on camera. So Sean's going to open us with a prayer tonight.
Thank you, Joe. God, thank you for our sobriety. Grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change. Let inspiration from this man, who I gave a 24-hour chip to many, many years ago, come through tonight and share with us the things that you have shared with him. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Sean. Sean was at the shelter I emerged through longer ago than either of us care to admit. So anyway, so tonight what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the instructions for step 4. Those of you who don't know what we do is we take a look at the suggestions for the instruction for a step or so a week directly out of this book. And we use this book in 12-step recovery. Why? It works. The process described by the authors of this book's been proven to work for addicts to the hopeless variety, addicts to alcohol and other substances, and indeed other behavioral issues as we grow and what have you. So if you have ever had a human condition that was persistent and became problematic, then we've got a process to introduce you to power greater than yourself that can solve your problem. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, because we're going to take a look at the instructions for step 4, where we'll start to see how perhaps we've participated in some of our own destruction. Yeah? Yeah. So if you want to go to your book, page 63, the bottom of that page, last week we ended with a 3rd step prayer. A lot of people refer to the 3rd step as the launching pad. Matter of fact, there was a meeting in Phoenix years and years ago, for many years, called the launching pad. Well, if step 3 is the launching pad, step 4 is the rocket. So, we talk about we've been rocketed into a 4th dimension of existence that we never dreamed possible. Well, if that's you and you're wanting to be rocketed into a 4th dimension of existence that's better than the best you've ever known, you might want to not only pay attention tonight, but then participate in what's suggested. Yep? Yes. All right, so it says, next we launched out on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. So prior to your first endeavor to do a 4th step, how many of you had tried to do a moral inventory of yourself? Some of you had tried. How many of you never tried and the 4th step was the first ever effort? Did you struggle with the idea that you didn't know how? Yes, very much so. A lot of people struggle with the idea they don't know how, and I only call it to your attention is because how would you know if you've never done it? And if you're not going to do it the same way they suggest, it'll be harder for you to show somebody else exactly what they've suggested. So if you've never done it in this format, don't assume you should know how. Okay? Let's get rid of that fear right now. Okay? Then it says, though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom. So whatever it is that brought you here, behavioral disorders of any type, addictive disorder of any type, That's a symptom of an underlying malady, according to the witness of these authors. And you can check your own experience. Have you ever been abstinent from whatever behavior, drugs, drinking, self-harm, overeating, undereating, whatever the issue that you may be looking for a solution to? Have you ever stopped doing that and then started again? So if stopping was the only thing that was required, it should have solved it, right? But it didn't solve it. So we can now assume that there is, for us, an underlying issue as well, right? So the decision to do better was a vital and crucial step, but it's not going to give me a permanent result until I make a strenuous effort, action, to face and be rid of those things in myself which have been blocking. And notice that they said face and be rid of. So how many of you have faced something but then not gotten rid of it? You'll know that, oh, of course I drink like this. I'm an alcoholic. Okay, I've faced it, but I haven't rid myself of it. Yes? How about other behaviors? How many of you, I get it now. No more of this behavior. And then all of a sudden you're off and running again. Right. So I faced it, but I wasn't rid of it. Yes? Okay. So action is going to require both. First to identify, then to summon power to outgrow. Yeah? Okay. So our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions. So based on that testimony from the authors, do you understand why, as a group, we may want to get down to causes and conditions? Okay. So it says, therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and a fact-facing process. Notice how they're emphasizing that. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. We did exactly the same thing with our lives. Sorry I read the whole paragraph first, because I know our minds go, but the reality is I have to give you the whole paragraph to get you context, and then we go back and deconstruct it, right? And see how many things they've talked to us about. So this is my effort to get to the truth about the stock in trade. Notice how they said the truth. Not my truth, not your truth, the truth. How many of you have discovered in your own life that there's sometimes a variation between your truth, someone else's truth about you, and the truth about you? Okay, so we're going to attempt to narrow that gap through this process, yeah? All right. And then it says we're going to disclose the damaged or unsaleable goods and get rid of them promptly and without regret. How many of you found that you had some character peculiarities that you were fond of? I mean, right? And then you start making excuses for why you can't face and be rid of that, because that's who I am. Yeah, any of you ever practiced sarcasm as an art? Did you notice in the help people business, sarcasm is not interpreted as funny? Especially for the broken. It's a weapon, right? Okay, so these are the kinds of things we're going to take a look at and see if I've been fooling myself about their values in what my real purpose is, which is obviously the maximum usefulness. All right, so and then I've got to get rid of them promptly and without regret. How do I get go of something that I think is maybe the best part of me? I thought I was extremely witty at one point. Yeah. Any of you, that's a good point, Carrie Ann. Any of you ever wear the mask when it would be appropriate to be crying and humbled, you're giggling, smiling? Yeah, a lot of us are mask wearers. So the point is that you're not emoting properly for the gravity of what we're witnessing here. So you're facing it, but you're not owning it, right? Okay. All right. So you're not going to get rid of it promptly or without regret until we get you properly emoting and what have you. Yeah. That's, by the way, that's what sponsors do. If you ever wonder what a sponsor does, is they're usually emoting in the proper way. They're feeling the weight of your trauma and they're crying when you're smiling. And that's how you'll know you're one in spirit. Who's feeling that? A bunch of you are feeling that. All right. So if the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. We did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure. Being convinced that self manifested in various ways is what had defeated us, we considered its common manifestations. So when did they're saying this like we already were convinced or admitted we were convinced. When did they tell us being convinced self manifested in various ways? I like to point this out because none of us are convinced until we get to the other side of this inventory. But we're taking an act in faith. Somebody said, well, self-manifested in my life is what caused my problem. And I identified how my self manifested based on fear. I lost sight of who I was and whose I was. And I acted badly in order to win approval or to, yeah. So this is so that I'm actually armed with the facts about me. I could never give a talk, not a meaningful talk at a AA podium or a recovery podium, having not done this, because I'm not properly armed with the facts about myself. It's not what it was like, it's what I was like. I was selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate, full of guilt, shame, and remorse. And it kept me from owning how badly I treated everyone around me. Yeah? Okay. So we're going to deconstruct now what these manifestations are. Resentment's the number one offender. So how many of you got here angry? How many of you have stayed angry? Unfortunately, in our fellowships, a lot of people stay angry for a long time. And in our society, people are angry. And it's easy if you don't start growing spiritually in the world we live in today and realize that we are in the world, but we are not of the world, and therefore we do not have to respond the way the world responds. People like me are in deep, deep poop. Because I will medicate it with something. All right, so it destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease. For we've not only been mentally and physically ill, we've been spiritually sick. Now, a lot of people that come here atheist or agnostic, they have a hard time with that. But just understand, when you stop taking care of yourself and you find yourself regularly in a disheveled state, those of us seeing you that have our eyes open understand that what has happened to you is you're spiritually not well, right? And it's manifesting as physical. Yeah? So here's what they learned. When the spiritual maladies overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. That's pretty wild, huh? Some of you are asking for a healing, but you're trying to do it through synthetic spirits. You're going to your doctor and getting something that's going to give you another symptom. And I'm not anti-medicine. I'm saying don't medicate what doesn't need to be medicated. What are you medicating a symptom for anyway? You ask yourself. You're not accountable to me, right? But if I'm trying to grow in consciousness of that power within me, the one thing I don't want to do is have any unnecessary pollutants dampening that stream. Does that make sense? All right, so in dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. So how did we typically deal with resentments prior to getting introduced to this manner of living? Sean generally at this point says, on the bar stool.
Around and around and around and around. Let me tell you what she did.
Or he did, or they did. So it says we listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we are angry. That's a pretty simple list. We've all sat around and done it. But now we're going to put it on paper and we're going to quit poisoning the atmosphere. Yeah? Okay. We ask ourselves why we were angry. So don't leave it, face it. Now let's sit in the process of being rid of it. Why am I angry? And then write that down. Then they're going to tell you about there. In most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened, so we were sore. We were burned up. So all they're talking about is when it affects me personally, I'm more likely to feel like I got a personal stake in it, and I assume a whole lot like everything is affecting me personally. Like when you unintentionally do something to me in traffic, I'm pretty sure you saw me and did it intentionally. Anyone else ever live that way? Just get bumped into, or somebody said something about someone else and they must be talking about you, because who the hell else could they be talking about? Any of you ever been really super sensitive? Okay, that's what they're talking about. So our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, the more of that stuff is tangled up in what's going on with us, the more likely we are to get gnarled up in it. And how many of you were everybody's savior? I got any of those here? So now when you think you're the avenging angel of the world, you got a lot of work, right? And we act as such, right? We justify outbursts, yes? Okay, so on our grudge list, we set opposite each name our injuries. Was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal or sex relations which have been interfered with? So it's just that simple, but find out for yourself personally, was my self-esteem affected? And not was it, but how did I think and how did I act as a result? Make it personal. This isn't about checking boxes. Anyone can check a box. This is getting armed with the facts about myself, face and be rid of. First, I got to identify the enemy and how he manifests through me, through the lie. Does that make sense? Okay, our security. So how many things are tied into your sense of security? Your job, where you live, what you drive, who you hang out with. So a lot of things can be affected, yeah? Personal, sex relations, self-explanatory, right? All right. So it says we're usually as definite as this example. I'm not going to go through the example, but you can look at it. The secret to a 4-step, number 1, have someone help you. And number 2, do it one thing at a time. Don't fill out long columns and then go back. Do one thing at a time. Fill out a page. It'll make more sense to you. All right. So it says we went back through our lives. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. Why? Sean says it's dependent on it. Any of you find the same kind of gravity in your step experience? Yeah. And who am I lying to at this point? The only guy that's been affected by it this whole time. I mean, I've been lying to me, and then I've been tearing my life down. I mean, other people were affected by how I tore my life down, but the reality is, so I've heard it said before, if anyone did to me what I did to me, I'd kill them. And indeed, that's what I was trying to do. It was an installment murder. So when we were finished, we considered it carefully. So not only am I going to be thorough and honest, but I'm going to go back and check me. Yeah? Right. The first thing apparent, let's see if we can align with them, was that the world and its people were often quite wrong. How many of you found that you have been mistreated by people, by institutions? We're not trying to deny that. We're trying to take ownership of that. If you had a part to play in it, then let's identify it. If you had no part to play in it, then let's look at your unforgiveness and why you still think it serves you. Does that make sense? All right, so to conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. So how many of you just got there? I don't want to hear about my part. Yeah? The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sore. Remember, this is happening in my thought life. So I'm really thinking about me and telling people, everyone else, how to think about me. Even when I'm talking about them, I'm telling them what's going on with me. So, and so is everyone else doing that, right? So the reality is, in your new identity, when you come out the other end of this, you're going to know who you are and whose you are. And I'll guarantee you, whatever lie you're telling you about not being worthy or being garbage or nobody sees you, he sees you. He dwells in you. He's going to clean you, and you're never going to have to be what you once were. And even then, you were a child of the living God. Does that make sense? So it says sometimes it was remorse, and then we were sore at ourselves. So how many of you, that's where you're stuck? I'm not going to be mad at anyone else, but I'm just mad at me. Screw me. Okay, we're not trying to make fun. People really get stuck. They get stuck till they die. There's power and purpose planted in you on purpose. If that's you, stop it. Stop taking yourself so seriously. It's all part of outgrowing this human I think I am and becoming this child that I am destined to become. Yes? So, but the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters God. Any of you keep struggling with it? I don't want to think this way anymore, but fuck me. So we're fighting with an idea. We can't win a war with our own idea with a new idea. We're going to need power to demolish those strongholds. That's why we're going to access it down inside, not up here. Does that make sense? All right, so as in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived. Any of you ever had any short-lived moments of triumph? All humans. It's a human experience. We think we're winning, and then, oops, missed that detail. All right, so it's plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. That was a declarative statement. Remember, the authors of this book have already been through the process and have been taking others through the process. If you're on the front side of this, it may not be clear to you that a life including deep resentment can only lead to futility and unhappiness. In fact, if you're like me, you come here so angry and so full of resentment, the only reason I lived was to get back at people. So I couldn't unpack till I had better tools. Does that make sense? And no one's faulting you for that. But at some point, you're going to have to own that, yes, I'm not living the life I'd like to live. Yeah? Okay. So, and then you get to the other side, and I'll see how it had me living in futility and unhappiness, and exactly why. Because myself manifested, and I convinced people that I was something that I knew I wasn't, and they probably knew I wasn't too, and now none of us liked me. All right, to the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile? So they gave you a hint. We permit them. How many of you didn't know that when I admitted powerlessness, it wasn't about picking up or not picking up, because it takes no power to not do. But it does take power to permit or to rebuke, right? Not my power, but I've got to invoke it. Yes? Okay. So, but with the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is infinitely grave. We found that it's fatal. For when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit. The insanity of alcohol returns, and we drink again. And with us, to drink is to die. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. That's what they declared, and they're going to tell you about what a state of being free of anger is like through the promises. Those of you that are going, oh, I can't be completely free of anger. Yes, you can, periodically. When you're free of self, you'll be free of anger. But the minute you're self-aware, there you are. Which means you're going to have to lose yourself in service to your fellow man in order to really use that fear in a more constructive purpose, right? All right, so the grouch and the brainstorm were not for us. So what do they mean?
We can't get upset, and we can't have crazy ideas.
It's not a good idea. Yeah. And the grouch is as simple, it's an old English word, but they're just talking about walking around griping. And you may not know. How many of you have been growing spiritually, and then you started to realize, man, my thinking sucks. I'm really cranky a lot. Anybody? You ever get sick of your own shit? So that stuff's not for us. Don't stay there, right? Supplant it with something better. The little gal sings a song. Those of you that are out of that other book, she says, I got to commit scripture to my heart so I can use it, and then I got to keep saying Psalm 23 till I believe it. All right, so they may be the dubious luxury of normal men, but for alcoholics, these things are poison. So are you an addict? Are you addicted to a behavior? Okay, well, I'm going to see people in the world manifesting all these same things, and I'm going to recognize it because I'm very familiar with it, but it's not safe for me to participate in it. Make sense? All right, so we turn back to the list, for it held the key to the future. The list has the key to the future. And what do they think the key to the future is?
The truth.
The truth. Not my truth, not your truth. The truth is the key to the future.
Right.
Okay, so we're prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. We began to see that the world and its people really dominated us. In that state, the wrongdoing of others, fancied or real, had the power to actually kill. And then they've got a question. How could we escape? Question mark. That's where, as you're reading this as a text, someone will show you how. Make sure when there's a question mark that you answer that question for yourself. If you don't know how they escaped, you're going to have to do what they did. Then you'll know how they escaped. Right? Eyesight without insight is spiritual blindness. I've been walking around blind spiritually. And now I'm about to open the veil, and now I got to quit dozing off. Right? All right. So we saw that these resentments must be mastered, but how? Same question. I've tried to master my own resentments. Any of you? Can't solve the problem with the mind that created it. My resentments are probably based at least partially on false ideas about the incident. Not entirely and not always, but I have been mad at people for years and can't remember why.
Unforgiveness.
Okay. So it says, we said we could not wish them away any more than alcohol. So they give you a little clue. The very first thing they tried to do is one of their what they call easier, softer ways. They tried to wish them away. And they're telling you, you will too, but you can't because we couldn't. Because they wrote down all their mistakes too, and we forget to show people it's okay to be human. In fact, fully embrace your humanity, but don't kid yourself about all the character assets and liabilities you may carry. All right, so this was our course. We realized that the people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. Ooh, I'm just learning that might be my gig. Maybe that's why that guy's the way he is, right? So it says, though we did not like their symptoms and the way these disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. So what are their symptoms?
Resentment, fear, guilt, shame, remorse.
Same as mine. No wonder I'm so familiar with them, right? And so I'm so busy picking out theirs that I'm not paying attention to how it's coming through the lens of my thoughts, right? There's another book where the teacher says, how can you see the speck in your brother's eye when you can't see the plank in your own eye? Better you should remove the plank from your eye so you better see to help your brother. See, I've been walking around blind with a plank in my eye called my perspective all my life. And I'm incapable of seeing what's really intended for me because I've already assigned what I think I deserve. Anyway, we ask God. Those of you that are new to us, when we say God, they say power, because we don't want anyone confused here. We're talking about power, not a theology. Okay? So we ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. So in order for me to do that when I'm angry, I'm experiencing anger, but I am showing them tolerance, pity, and patience. There's a power greater than me at work in me. And if you don't believe me, think about the time since you've been in recovery and you're trying to be understanding and you had power to be kinder than you felt like being. Was that not a power greater than you operating through you? Would it make sense to now improve consciousness, awareness of being aware of that power in and on your life so you respond a little better to life and what it throws? All right. So when a person offended, we said to ourselves, this is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? Question mark. So I'm talking to the power within me. And then I'm making a request. God, save me from being angry. Power saved me from being angry. Right? And then it says, thy will be done. Kind of cool, right? What do you imagine his will is in that instant?
Love and tolerance of others.
Love and tolerance, right? All right. So it says we avoid retaliation or argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. So they're taking the mystery out of it. If your response is to tune them up, wrong response. If we do, we destroy our chance of being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. To the extent you do your discipline, he's going to show you how to take a better view of everybody. Does it make sense? And I don't really suffer as long from the way you treat me as I do from my thoughts about how you treat me. So if I could get rid of that, I'd suffer 90% less. All right, so referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs others have done, we resolutely look for our own mistakes. That's a powerful word. What resolutely means it's going to be hard. I'm going to have to force myself to quit focusing on what I think happened to me and start focusing on the part I played. Right? It helps to have a guide through this. It helps to have what we call a sponsor in recovery or a mentor, because we get personally involved. Someone's got to help hold us accountable to, no. Got to find your part. This isn't their inventory. This is yours. This is how yourself manifests, not theirs. Not denying the reality of what they did. It's just irrelevant right now. Okay, so where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Notice how it just manifests from I experience fear, and so I start selfishly gathering unto me or trying to convince you I'm something I'm not, or whatever it is I'm trying to do. And then I lie to me, right? I deserve it, or you deserve it, or whatever. I got to lie to me somewhere on the way. So now I'm in delusion. And then I continue the behavior, which is self-seeking. I double down. I run the rails off of it, right? And all the way back to the fear that drove it in the first place, right? And that's the whole idea. That's how you open your eyes to find out what happened. Okay, so though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. Extraordinarily difficult. You can do it, especially as you grow, but if you've got people that will help you, still recommend you have a mentor or a sponsor or some kind of trusted advisor to help you with getting yourself in another column, huh?
Yes.
All right, so where were we to blame? I got to have a part. I wouldn't be suffering if I didn't have a part. I got to keep looking until I find it, right? Because it's obscuring the consciousness of that power down on the inside of me.
Right.
The inventory was ours, not the other man's. Got to remind ourselves of that. It helps to have an accountability partner that reminds us of that. Yeah? When we saw our faults, we listed them. Face and be rid of. Get it on paper. Yep. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly and were willing to set these matters straight. Who am I admitting them to?
God, your sponsor.
Yeah, maybe the sponsor. He may not be there, depending on if I'm able to do it on my own. But I'm eventually going to admit it to him when we go through it. Yep. But while I'm going through this process, to that power down on the inside of me, I'm going to say, yep, I did that. Okay, so notice that the word fear is bracketed alongside the difficulties with Mr. Brown, Mrs. Jones, the employer, and the wife. This short word somehow touches about every aspect of our lives. It was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. They're talking about fear. A lot of people don't play with fear. They don't do fear inventories in recovery. They get into all kinds of stuff, and it's all driven by fear. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-seeking, self-delusion, self-pity. I step on the toes of my fellows and they retaliate. Right? So it's all driven by that. So we got to take seriously this idea of how fears have driven me and how embedded they are in my being. Right? So it set in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve. But did we not ourselves set the ball rolling? Question mark. So I'm going to have to find out how fear drives me. And a lot of people don't do it. I'm suggesting get a common fears list and see how fear drives you. Because I will tell you some interesting things. Do I have any alcoholics in the house?
Yep.
A few of you. Any of you like me who would sit in the bar night after night when no one else was there, me and the bartender, and drink the place sick as a dog, but I didn't leave because I was afraid if I did, something would happen and I'd miss it.
Yep.
How many of you did the same thing at the trap house? Maybe days, right? Something's going to break loose any minute. Anyway, that keeps me from being faithful in relationships of all types. It keeps me it won't allow me to ever commit to anything meaningful. That fear drives so much that just destroys my inability. It just makes me unable to be who I want to be. Okay, so sometimes we think fear ought to be classed with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. They're going right to it. How many of you have not tried something because you didn't think you're good enough? And what was that based on? Fear. A past experience, perhaps? Fear of failure? How many of you have found out you get nowhere without failing a few times? Did anyone ever tell you that? Failing's not a failure. Stopping after a failure is a failure, right? But all of that fear that's around how you used to be and what you may have tried before, you've been made new. Walk it out. Does it make sense? Okay. So we reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper even though we had no resentment in connection with them. So they're talking a little bit in general about some of the things. How many of you have suffered from depression? And I'm talking whether you ever had it clinically diagnosed or you just couldn't seem to get out and engage in life anymore. Okay, that's anger without enthusiasm. That's that fear turned inward on you. And you can't even infuse your spirit to do anything because you just, yeah? Okay, so we ask ourselves why we had them. How many of you have had fears and you ask yourself why you had them and you didn't have a sufficient answer? There's one in you that knows. It's all around identity. Sean was about to go there and I cut him off. I don't know why. But it's all around identity, about who you are. Okay, wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? How many of you really had been self-reliant many times in many instances in your life? How many of you have done everything the best you could and still circumstances just snatch victory from you? So self-reliance is going to fail you eventually. But how are you going to respond? Right? All right, so self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse. Any of you had past successes and then you had some struggles and then you said, well, I did this before, I'm just going to do it again. But now you not only got the thing you got to do again, but you got the reputation for being a shit show. Any of you ever had that happen to you? I'm speaking from personal experience. So being cocky is probably not the approach, right? Okay. So perhaps there's a better way. We think so. So who's we? First 100, and their experience with the first several thousand. So this is not without gravitas, but they're going to give you a more sane and sound approach to it. Yeah? All right. So for we're now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. Now, for those of you who are students of that other book, that means I walk by faith, not by sight. Just plain language, that's what that means. Okay? So we trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. We're in the world to play the role He assigns. I always ask this question. I'm going to ask it again. Does it sometimes seem to you that you got a rather crappy assignment? Because that's a common human experience, the why me's. But it's the wrong question. Why not you? Who better than you to be an agent of my healing to people like you that have suffered needlessly because they didn't know me, he says. Yeah, you're feeling that, aren't you? Okay, just to the extent that it's getting hot in here too, just to the extent that we do as we think he would have us and humbly rely on him, does he enable us to match calamity with serenity? So that's power greater than me manifesting through me. So I'm in the middle of a calamity, many calamitous situations in my life. My outward appearance is one of serenity. My inward being may not be that, but I'm able to stand in the storm, right? All right, so We never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. Why? Just because you can't see him doesn't mean I don't know him. And, here's the deal. I got plenty of experience that says that he wins even when I don't. So we can laugh at those who think spirituality is the way of weakness. Right? If they think that power in me is coming from a weak mind, okay, let's walk it out and see how it turns out. I've said some crazy things to people in my life. One time I said, I know, let's start a reentry center for people coming directly out of prison. We'll pick them up at the gates. We'll call them freedom rides. And we'll take them to one location where we'll help them learn how to live, get their license, get their social security card, maybe get a little therapy, get some job skills. And then, in a few days, we'll just send them out into the public where they can go live out their life. Yeah, 400 of them in one place. What could possibly go wrong? That vision exists, folks. That vision exists. And not only does that exist, but a whole lot that are emulating it now and coming up with more innovative approaches every day. And now thousands and thousands, I'm sure the numbers are in the tens of thousands of people have been helped because of that vision that came to an old wretch like me. Paradoxically, it's the way of strength. The verdict of the ages is that faith means courage. All men of faith have courage. They trust their God. We never apologize for God. And they're going to say what I've been saying to you. Instead, we let him demonstrate through us what he can do. And have him direct my attention to what he would have me be. Be under no delusion was I telling you the story of Joe's accomplishment. I'm giving you the story of God's accomplishment with his servant, Joe. And anyone that doesn't understand that, I need you to understand that. Okay, so we ask him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what he would have us be at once we commence to outgrow fear. If you've been running around saying, God, what do I do? What do I do? And you don't think he answers prayers, you're asking the wrong question. He's the doer. You're the being. Ask him what he would have you be while he does with you what he does. Does that make sense? Okay, now about sex. Uh-oh, everyone starts looking in their book. Many of us needed an overhauling there. But above all, we tried to be sensible on this question. It's so easy to get way off the track. Here we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes perhaps. One set of voices cry that sex is a lust of our lower nature, the base necessity of procreation. And then we have the voices who cry for sex and more sex, who bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes. They think we don't have enough of it or it isn't the right kind. They see its significance everywhere. One school would allow man no flavor for his fare. The other would have us all on a straight pepper diet. So here's the thing, guys. We all get goofy about discussions of sex, even though all of us know that we're probably sexual beings or have been. And all they're saying is, when you're having a new and exciting relationship, you're kind of on one end of the scale and not enough of it, not the right kind, right? We need whips and chains and leathers and feathers and scents and flavors and whatever, right? And then when we're coming off of a bad situation, procreation only. So what we're trying to do is own where we're at. And we're also, remember they told us, the alcoholic's an extreme example. Well, if you can find yourself easily in human behavior on both ends, pillar to post, you might qualify for this manner of living, right? All right, so then they tell us the suggestion. We do not want to be the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. My lens is faulty for your intention in those relationships. I am not qualified for how you should behave. I'm not even qualified for how I should behave. There's one in me who's supposed to moderate that. And I have to seek it because it can get bad. Yeah? So it says we all have sex problems. We'd hardly be human if we didn't. So although people make light of it, this isn't about looking at sexual peculiarities. It's looking at how selfishly you've allowed those ideas to do harm to other human relationships. Yeah?
Exactly.
So what can we do about them? Seemingly, I can do nothing about them. But I can get an ideal through this process, and I can pray for power, and I can continue to try and serve, because one thing that no one needs from me is my sexual skills. That's there was times in my life I would have never copped to that, but in fact, I'd have sold you on it, like the guy at the door tried to sell you a vacuum. I got attachments, but the reality, anyway, promiscuity is not an asset to your character.
No, it isn't.
Okay, because it'll get in the way. It'll get in the way of you trying to be useful to others. That's why. All right. So what can we do about them? We reviewed our own conduct over the years past. So they're going to answer like I did. There's nothing I can do about them, but I'm going to get an ideal, and then I'm going to get some power. Yeah. All right. So we reviewed our own conduct over the years past. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. In this way, and that's also your 10th step for a lifetime, guys, situationally. So that little paragraph right there. Whatever has got you disturbed right now is going to be one of those things manifesting. Okay? So in this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. So they assume that we're going to want a future sex life. Does everyone want a future sex life? Yeah. 2 or 3 of you. The rest of you are lying. 4. Everybody wants a future sex life, given that I have a sane and sound ideal for it. Yes? And it's not just about the sex anyway. That paints all my human interactions. So if I'm having unsatisfactory human interactions, I need a sane and sound ideal. One of the most potent character defects I have is promiscuity that gets in the way of them. But I'm also lying to me about a lot of other things, therefore I'm lying to you. Okay. So we subjected each relationship to this test. Was it selfish or not? You may not be the best judge of whether that was selfish, because you might be able to convince yourself that you are God's gift to that particular individual or situation. But remember, we're going to run it against the power in us. And you will experience conviction if you're lying to you, in all likelihood. And if not, talk to your mentor. They'll tell you you're being delusional. They probably won't stop you what you're going to do, but okay. We ask God to mold our ideals and help us live up to them. So I'm going to ask God to help me mold them, and then I'm going to try and stand up under them. Yep. We remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised and loathed. Guys, as you grow in the Spirit, men and women, please hear me. People are going to be attracted to you. They're not attracted to you physically. They're attracted to you spiritually, and they don't necessarily know the difference. Do not use that power foolishly. Those of you that have people, they find you in a crowded space and come running to you and say, dude, could you please give me some money? They're not asking you. They're asking him. Act accordingly. You understand? When the light comes on, you may not know, but God's people will know. I'm just trying to help people understand. All right, so whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow toward it. Must, in this instance, is not a thou shalt. It's a no-brainer. I would not have gone to this trouble to look into all this if I wasn't willing. So, I'm willing to grow toward it. Does that make sense? The youth, they've already, and I know this because they said our book is meant to be suggestive only. They've told you this is just suggestions. They're not telling you what thou shalt do. As many times as someone tells you that's what they're saying, that's not what they're saying. They're very clearly saying, don't dig it up if you don't plan to take it out. Right? Okay, so we must be willing to make amends where we've done harm. Same rule. I don't want to go confront those people and tell them how badly I've treated them and own how, and all that. And I don't want to, but I owe it to them. And I'm never going to be the guy I want to be until I've taken ownership of that active repentance, for those of you in that other book. Okay, and I'm not going to be able to show another brother how that's done until I'm strong enough to have walked through my own. One of the things is if you start working with a lot of people, they'll drive you through their steps. You'll see things that you're afraid to do. You'll see guys you're sponsoring go do much scarier stuff. And you'll go, wow, and I'm afraid of owning this. And then I'll call my guy and say, hey, I've been kind of meek in this matter. Okay, so provided we do not bring about still more harm in so doing. Okay, one touch that. There was a time when people had even taught step studies, said, you are others. No, you're not others. That I don't care how many times you heard it and how many digits are on their chip, they lied to you. Probably because someone lied to them. You're not others. They've told us clearly who the others are. Anyone else that would be affected by my actions. Because, see, I never considered how anyone else would be affected by my actions when I was in active addiction. I just went and did what I needed to do. And if you didn't get to buy clothes for the kids, tough shit. If you didn't get to eat this week, tough. Yeah? So now as I'm growing spiritually, if I got to go give money out or I got to go do something, I'm supposed to involve them in the decision. But in the interim, in the end game, I'm still going to have to go do what I'm going to have to do. And those are those people that be affected by my actions. Those are the others. Okay, so that's another one you want someone to help you with. Someone that can take you out of the equation so you're not doing something silly. Throwing yourself on the mercy of the court, which isn't designed to show mercy, by the way. They're designed to adjudicate. Not the same. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. So back to what I was telling you, this is about all human interactions, not just sex. Don't get it twisted. It's just sex is such a prevalent problem for humans in the way we think. All right. In meditation, if anyone ever asks you, when do we start talking about meditation in AA's book? On page 69, where we start talking about sex. Interesting little, those of you, alcoholics are not without a sense of humor, right? I know how we'll get them to remember it. Put it on 69. Oh, 69. Okay, in meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. So now that's why I wanted all that stuff individually on lists, is because I'm going to go ask for sane and sound ideal for all my future interactions. Yep. And then power to carry it out. Yeah. All right. Then it says the right answer will come if we want it. That sounds like a promise and a warning, doesn't it? How many of you got the right answer, but it was not the answer you wanted? So how many of you have faced but not been rid of something? Okay, so it's not that the answer didn't come, it's that I didn't want it. And now I'm feeling convicted twice. Why? Because I didn't go back in for power to carry it out. Yeah? Not trying to beat anyone down. I'm just trying to say, you're not so beat down that you can't be lifted up. But we do have to participate in the process. Yes? All right, so God alone can judge our sex situation. Counsel with other persons is often desirable, but we let God be the final judge. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid hysterical thinking or advice. So some people are going to have an opinion for how long you should wait and what you should do and what I always tell the men that I work with is, I don't know anything about that. You're probably going to do what you're going to do anyway. But I would suggest to you that you at a minimum do an inventory before you go engage in another relationship. Let's at least see what the train wreck's going to look like. Right? And then you're fully informed. Godspeed. I'm telling you the truth, man. I get it all the time. It doesn't say that in the book. I said, no, what it says in the book is that you might want to get a look at what's up because you're running around in delusion. That's what we're trying to say. All right, so suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal and stumble. Any perfectionists in the room? Yeah. Yeah, a lot of journeys we don't start because we're afraid we won't complete. But this is a whole new deal. You will complete if you commit, right? It may not look like the straight line you imagined. Okay, does this mean we're going to get drunk? Okay, some people tell us so, but this is only a half truth. It depends on us and our motives. Now be careful there. How many of you think you know your motives?
I'm self-deluded, so probably not.
A lot of people don't know their own motives. So you better start growing in the spirit, because I can convince myself that I'm being righteous. Okay, so if we're sorry for what we've done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we'll be forgiven. We'll have learned our lesson. If we're not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we're quite sure to drink. We're not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience. So I always get this question too from the people of atheist or agnostic sort of tendencies. Why would I get forgiveness from a God I don't believe in? I said, well, we come to believe here, and you probably wouldn't. But for those of us that are students of that other book as well, let me explain to you the nature of divine forgiveness is that everything I've ever done is completely washed away. And it's either repurposed or gone. So I'm literally wiped clean, even though I was really, really dirty. And so the reason I would want that, even if I didn't believe in that, is I've often wanted things I didn't believe in. Because they were just better conditions for me. And if you don't believe that I believe it, you're not paying attention. Because I'll go blow for blow with you about how shitty a person can be and what was done with me. Right? All right. So, to sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal, for guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity, and for strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. We think of their needs and work for them. This takes us out of ourselves. It quiets the imperious urge when to yield would mean heartache. So that a lot of us, especially around this group, position in neutrality for years and years, we're firm believers, and we don't have any. Get through your steps and start serving. How soon? Can you get through them in a day? Because I'd like you working by tomorrow with somebody else. Now, if you're not ready for that, then that's fine. But the reality is, when I got ready to get high, it didn't take me a week to figure it out. So don't let fear steal from you a destiny made for you. All right. So if we've been thorough about our personal inventory, we've written down a lot. We've listed and analyzed our resentments, and we've begun to comprehend their futility and their fatality. Now my eyes are open. I'm starting to see what I thought was gain was loss. Yeah? All right. We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We've begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people. We've listed people we've hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten out the past if we can. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. Faith does for us what we can't do for ourselves. Right? Okay. We hope you're convinced now that God can remove from you whatever self-will has blocked you off from him. He's not going to remove worldly things. He's going to remove those things in my mind that are keeping me from becoming who he says I am. All right, so if you have already made a decision and an inventory of your growths or handicaps, you've made a good beginning. That being so, you've swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself. 8 o'clock, we're there.